What's up, ladies and gents? In today's video, we're going to be talking all about OP. We're going to be discussing what we are seeing here on the charts, and I'll be giving you guys my price prediction for OP over the coming days and weeks, as well as my targets for 2025. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. Of course, if you are a new viewer, then welcome to the channel. If you do like this sort of content, hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you are a returning viewer, as always, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you all here. So of course, we're going to be diving straight into this video. We're first going to start off with the shorter term here on OP, so discussing the next few days and weeks, and then I'll move on to my targets for this bull run. So of course, we are on the 1-day chart right now, and as we can see here on OP's chart, things have been looking fairly decent. Of course, we've seen a little bit of a pump here throughout the whole of August, taking things up about 20 to 30%. But of course, here on OP, I do think that things could be going a lot higher in the shorter term as well as the slightly longer term. And the main reason for that is because of the fact that we have seen a massive ETH rally. So of course, if I just zoom in a little bit, this is what the chart looks like on the 1 day. So basically, since the start of July, things have been up only for Ethereum. Now, this matters for us here on Optimism because of course, Optimism is a layer 2 for Ethereum. So essentially, it's an Ethereum ecosystem coin. And if Ethereum is doing well, then by extension, we should also see Ethereum ecosystem coins like Optimism and other ones that we've spoken about like Arbitrum, Chainlink, and so on to do extremely well as well. Now, of course, if we go back onto the Ethereum chart briefly and just go back to that 1 week chart, you can see that this has been what we're seeing here on Ethereum for the past 5 years. Essentially, we've had this consolidation pattern and we've had both a resistance that looks like this and a support that looks like this. Now, this is a triangle pattern, and the significance of this is that we've seen a breakout just over the past few days. So you can see that the prices broke out of the upper resistance line here on Ethereum, and this means that has triggered off this 5-year long consolidation triangle. Now, of course, the price target of this triangle lies firmly here for Ethereum in 5 figures. And of course, if Ethereum makes that move, that's going to be very, very good for us here in Optimism. So maybe you're wondering at this point, if Ethereum is going to be doing this well, then why have we not seen much of a movement here on OP? And the reason for that, guys, is because we have this capital rotation chart. Now, of course, we've got 4 different phases, and OP is going to do its best, probably in phase 3, where this large cap section is. Of course, OP can be considered a large cap because its market cap at the moment is above $1 billion. So essentially, OP is going to go pretty parabolic, in my opinion, when we get to phase 3. But right now, we are in phase 2. And essentially, the characteristic here of phase 2 is that Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. So essentially, we've started to see over about the past 4 weeks, Ethereum really doing better than Bitcoin. And we know that because if we have a look at Ethereum, this has been the chart, it's basically been up only since the start of July, as we have said. But here on Bitcoin, although it has been heading up, we can see that it's kind of stalled at the 120K area, whereas Ethereum is starting to plod up to its own previous all-time highs. So over really the past 4 weeks, we've seen this Ethereum outperformance, which has been very noticeable, moving us from phase 1, where Bitcoin has dominated, which we've seen since 2022. If we just look back at this chart, we've basically been in an uptrend here on Bitcoin since the bottom there at the end of 2022. And of course, we are moving now into phase 2. And this is why we're not yet seeing coins like OP doing particularly well. Although we have seen pumps across crypto, we are not yet seeing those parabolic moves that we would expect with phase 3, where large caps are really starting to take off. So in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before we move on from phase 2 to phase 3. Of course, the reason for that is because obviously as Ethereum continues to go up, there's going to be more and more holders that do take profits on Ethereum, and that capital then rotates into slightly smaller caps like Optimism, and of course that is going to pump the chart a lot higher. Now, in the shorter term, what I think we could be looking at, in fact, this is even more of just a general 2025 target. But what I think we have seen here on Optimism is the fact that we've had this massive falling wedge pattern. I think this is the main read of what we're seeing here on the chart on Optimism. Of course, as you can see, the trend has been bearish now, basically since 2024. The prices have been going down here on Optimism, and these trend lines have been the main resistance up here and the main support down here. Now, the the support has been tested on 3 separate occasions. We've had the resistance tested on 3 separate occasions. And what you guys might have noticed is that if you look at the price of Optimism here, we have just started to break out to the upside. Now, this is an exciting prospect because, of course, the price target from this falling wedge is a bullish one because this is a bullish chart pattern. And of course, the way we measure the price target is by getting the distance of the first test of support over here to the first test of resistance. And as you guys can see, we've got a 157% upside that we could potentially expect here on Optimism. And of course, that takes the prices here in the slightly shorter term to $2.05. So this is something that I can see being reached maybe within the next few weeks, maybe a month or two, depending on how things go. But nonetheless, we have already seen this breakthrough. So that is really good news here for Optimism. Now, of course, if you guys want to get $10 free to buy some Optimism before we see this massive pump, then don't forget to check out the MEXC exchange. As you guys can see on the screen, they're giving every new user who signs up using the link in the description down below $10 to get started. Now, of course, this exchange does not require KYC to operate. The only thing you need to do to get that $10 is deposit some of your own fiat or crypto into your new account, and then that $10 bonus is yours. So like I say, you can use it to buy some OP, or you can long or short OP with up to 100 times leverage using the MEXC futures. Of course, link for this again is in the description down below. Thank you guys for your support on this channel. Let's get back onto this video. So of course, we've got a bullish chart pattern here on OP. We've obviously seen that breakout in the short term. We have a price target there of $2.05. If we have a look at our trusty MACD as well, things only get better and better, because here on the 1-day MACD, we can see that throughout this whole period that OP was showing us this downtrend, we had a massive uptrend here on the 1-day MACD. So essentially, we can treat this as a bullish divergence. Although the price has been heading lower over the same time frames, the MACD has been heading upwards, which means there's been more bullish momentum here on OP. And of course, that means we could see a trend reversal in the near future, which means that if the trend over this period was bearish, we should see a new bullish trend emerge here on OP sooner rather than later. And if we go on the 1-week MACD, we get a very similar story. In fact, as you can see, if we zoom out even more, we've had this bullish divergence that's been happening now basically since the start of 2024. Massive bullish divergence between the price and the MACD. So things, in my opinion, on the MACDs are looking very, very good. Now, for my bull market targets here, so when we do get that full-on altcoin season, when we get into at least phase 3 here of this capital rotation chart, and when we start to see the fiat and greed index close to 100, the altcoin season close to 100, I do think that Optimism has a good chance of running very, very high this cycle. Now, in terms of price targets, what I am looking for are targets based on the Fibonacci levels from this downtrend that we have seen. So of course, if we draw the Fib levels on, you guys can see that Optimism really does respect these Fib levels as places of support and resistance. So when the prices start to head up back to their all-time highs here on Optimism, we can use these Fib levels as targets where we might expect to see some sort of resistance as prices go up. So of course, any one of these Fib levels could present themselves as a resistance. So for example, if we just draw a random journey of OP going up, we could see something like this, where the prices kind of stall at some of these Fib levels. That's always going to be possible. But my first main target here for OP, in my opinion, for this bull cycle is of course the previous all-time high. That gives us a target here of $4.81 on OP. Now beyond that, we have these 3 Fib extensions, and of course the next natural target here for OP according to the Fibs is $9.40. After that, we've got this 1.414 Fib that tells us we could see $13. And of course, our most optimistic target here for Optimism, no pun intended, is this 1.618 Fib here, the golden Fib ratio that tells us we could see around $21 here on OP. Now, of course, this is our most optimistic target here, and this one Fib at $4.80 is our most conservative target. So of course, my 2 highest conviction targets here for OP is this $4.80. I think that's going to be a massive, massive resistance for us here this bull cycle. If we can get a very, very bullish bull run here, then I would expect this $21 up here at the 1.618 Fib to be hit for OP. So of course, those are my 2 main targets for for 2025. And just very finally, guys, what I want to talk about as well are these two indicators that I showed you a little bit earlier. If you have not yet seen them or don't know what they are, then essentially these are ways to basically gauge how bullish the markets are. Now, the fear and greed index is a sentiment indicator. It's out of 100. And basically, the higher the number here, the more positive sentiment there is in the markets. And of course, this is important because generally when we see a lot of positive sentiment, a lot of euphoria, that means people are happy to take more risks. People will trade more on emotion. And in that environment, we see the best chance of massive rallies. And the same goes for the altcoin season here. Of course, this is also out of 100. And this just measures how well altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. And the higher the number here, the better for us. Of course, this also shows us basically how risk-taking investors are in crypto. The closer to 100, the more risk appetite there is from investors here in crypto. And of course, again, that feeds into an environment where we get these massive pumps, these 5x's, 10x's, even 50x's in the shortest spaces of time. And of course, that correlates to giving us the best possible chance here on OP to reach these upper price targets in this bull cycle. So of course, that's pretty much what I wanted to say here for OP. Do let me know down in the comments if you are holding any OP. If you are, let me know what your personal price targets are for 2025. Of course, thank you guys so much for watching again. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.